So once again, rational numbers. Now we're dealing with negative 1.40 and negative 1.25. So both whole numbers are negative 1. Now we have to look at the two numbers after the decimal. So since they're negative, the one closer to 0 will be the bigger number. So what would be closer to to 0? Negative 40 or negative 25? 25. Negative 25. So it would be read as negative 1.40 is less than negative 1.25. So when you have two negatives, the one closer to 0 will always be the bigger number. Now they're going to throw fractions in. So now we have negative 3/8, and we're comparing it to negative 5/16.
Ayana McCullough to the front office, please. Ayana McCullough to the front office.
When you have two fractions, make sure they have the same denominator. It makes things a lot easier. Now, since both of these are different, we're going to change one of them. Does 8 go into 16? Yes. Yeah, by what? Twice. So you're going to multiply these two by 2. So we get 16 on the bottom. What's 3 times 2? 6. And then we have negative 5/16. So we now have the same denominator. They're both negative, so we're just looking at the top numbers. We're not worried about the denominators anymore. So we have negative 6, we have negative 5. Which one would be closer to 0? So negative 3/8 is less than 5/16. Or negative 5/16. Okay, so when they're both negative, just which one ever is closer to 0 is the bigger number. To have the same denominator. It makes things a lot easier. So let's jump over to page 390. We're going to look at number 1. So number 1, we have 9.7 and negative 10.3. So what do you notice? We have a positive and a negative. So 9.7 don't have to do any work. Number 2, now we have two fractions. They already have the same denominator, so we're just looking at the top numbers. We have 5/8 and negative 3/8. So 5 and negative 3. So 5 is greater than. That's it. All you're doing is comparing like we did on Tuesday. So let's go ahead and go back, and you guys are going to try to do A, B, C, and D down at the bottom of page 388. All right, here we go. So letter A, we have 3.1 and negative 3.7. What do you notice about those? Positive and negative. So 3.1 is greater than, because it's positive. Okay, letter B. Now we have negative 4.5 and negative 4.49. Okay, whenever you have two negatives, they have the same whole number, so both have negative 4. Okay, we got to look at the numbers after the decimal. When one has two numbers after the decimal, add a 0, or if it's repeating, add another number. That way you can compare them. So now we're looking at 50 and we're looking at 49. So we're going to think of it as negative 50 and negative 49. So which one would be closer to 0? 49. So then we're going to do less than. So negative 4.5 is less than negative 4.49. So whenever there's two digits after a decimal and the other one only has one, annex a 0. That way you can compare them like that. All right, letter C. So we have two fractions, 9/16 and 12/16. They both have the same denominator. So all we're doing is looking at 9 and 12. So 9/16 is less than 12/16. And then letter D, we have two fractions again, but they have different denominators. Does 5 go into 10? Yes. So we can multiply by 2. So we get negative 8 over 10. So we have negative 7, we have negative 8. So negative 7/10 is greater than, because it's closer to 0. Negative 7, negative 8. and a fraction together. So you're going to compare a decimal to a fraction. Now, when they do this, you need to change the fraction into a decimal. So I would grab a calculator right now if you need one. What we're going to do, what we're going to do is we're going to change them to be decimals. So the good thing is this one's already in decimal form. We don't have to mess with it. What we need to worry about is this one. So we already know that negative goes straight to our answer. And now we do 8 divided by 15. Just like the other day. So the 3 is repeating. Okay, so now they're both decimals. So they're both negative. So we got to figure out which one is closer to 0. So we're looking at 51 and we're looking at 53. Which one would be closer to 0? 51. So this is going to be greater than. Now we have one decimal. We need to change this 3/7 to a decimal. So do 3 divided by 7. And what do we get? So $428. So 3/7 is greater than 413 thousandths. So all you gotta do is change it to a decimal and then compare them. Makes things a little bit easier. Now, just like on Tuesday, we are going to do ordering they're going to give you decimals and they're going to give you mixed numbers and fractions. So to do this, we're going to leave that one alone and we're going to change both of these to be decimals. Those mixed numbers into decimals. Whenever you have a whole number and a mixed number, it just goes straight to your answer. So we're going to do 22 divided by 25. And now we have the -2 and 1/10. So we do 1 divided by 10. Or if you know, it's just place value. So 0.1. Since these have 2 digits, what can we add here? 0. So, greatest. So, since they're negative, the least is going to be the one that's furthest away from 0. So all of them have 2, so we're not looking at those. We're looking at these numbers. So is -88, -46, -10, which one is the furthest away from 0? 88. Now, this one was the -2 and 22/5. You have to use the original numbers. What would go next? Original number, not the decimals we changed them into. So it's got to be the original. All right, let's go ahead and jump to page 390 again. So jump to page 390. Okay, we're going to look at number 5. So now we have -3 and 1/3. -3 and 3/4 and 3.5. So they give us 4 numbers and they want us to order these from least to greatest per the directions. So the good thing is 2 of these are already decimals. So we don't even need to do anything to those. But we need to change both of these. So automatically I know that this -3 goes in front of my decimal for both of them. Now we just have to worry about this fraction part. So we do 1 divided by 3. Rewrite that one down there. And then 3 divided by 4. Okay, so since this one has 2 after it, we need these two we're worrying about later because they're positive. So the very least is going to be the one furthest away from 0. So is that going to be 33 or 75?
75.
So then we start with So the reason I set it up like this is that way I know what original number goes with the decimal form. Integer. So we need to change this one. So the 2 goes in front of the decimal. Now we do 1 divided by 11. One, 0, and then what are we going to have to add after this one? 1. All right, so since we're doing least, easier. So I want you guys to go back, and you're going to do letter G on page 389. So let's okay, we have negative 7 13/20ths, negative 7.78, and negative 7 1700ths. So first off, we got to change them all to decimals. So we're going to start with this one. Negative 7 goes in front. Now 13 divided by 20 is? Okay, this one's already decimal, so we don't have to mess with it. And then this one, put the negative 7. Go from greatest to least. So the greatest one is going to be the one closest to 0 since they're all negative. So is 17, 78, or 65 going to be closest? So then we start with negative 7 and 1700. Or 78?
65.
There you go. So pay attention to the directions. They will. Fractions and decimals at you together, and some negatives. All right, so now we're going to talk about the IXLs.